How's it? Well, welcome back. So for anyone who happened to watch my recent-ish video where I was talking about my 15-pound pillow I made out of rice, which is pretty badass, by the way. And I actually had a comment come in on that video, wanted me to do like like a breakdown of my favorite pillows. And so give me an excuse to talk about pillows, and man, you got it. So I will definitely be doing that in the near-ish future. But if for anyone who watched that video to the end specifically, I ended up adding, like a kind of updated version of it, because that video was a good like week or so old by the time that I posted it. And in that updated part of that video, I was looking like this, where I was missing my tooth again. Anyone who's been following me for, months, the past several months in particular, because it also broke on me back in like May or something like that. I shot a couple videos looking silly like that, and so I really wasn't shooting much new videos since that my tooth has been missing. But I did add in that one part towards the end of that pillow video, kind of just as a way to see if anybody actually watches my entire videos and to kind of see if they would notice it. But for the few of you who did watch that entire video and noticed the big gap in my teeth, I finally got it back. So saying F's and S's are now way the hell easier. Anyway, within that past week or so of me missing a tooth and not shooting videos, I had several different topics and things come in of videos that I wanted to go ahead and touch on. And within that span of time, I ended up getting 3 different hypnagogic meditation techniques from people in the community. So I thought I would go over those. I'm not sure how many different videos I'll break this up into. Probably at least 2 different ones, maybe 3 videos. But the first one I wanted to cover came from this guy, Flunkons on YouTube. And he actually brought up a book that I have never heard of until he went ahead and brought it to my attention. It's a kind of older book from 1997 titled Dream Travel by Tara Wilson. And that book is aimed more towards, at least from what I could kind of gather online by kind of just, looking over the book. Some I haven't read it, obviously, but it's more focused on like OBEs. But this one technique he gives here, and I think Flunkon did a great job by putting this comment in one of my hypnagogic meditation videos, because it lines up perfectly with that. Although I think when Taro was writing this technique in his book, he wasn't focused on hypnagogic meditation. He was specifically focused on trying to have these OBE type experiences. But here's what he wrote, and I'm pretty sure this is a quote directly from the book. And so he writes, "I try to mentally induce a feeling of tightness at a center spot inside my head, from a spot approximately 2 inches in the back of the top center of my head, downward along a vertical line several inches into my skull." And so for me personally, I just kind of put it like a few inches back or a couple inches back of where your third eye typically would be, kind of like somewhere, in there. I try to mentally cause a tightness or tensing or tingling sensation to develop in that general area. Perhaps the easiest way for me to mentally induce this feeling of tightness is to try and mentally pull downward on that spot about 2 inches in the back of the top center of my head. My mind will repeatedly forget and lose that tightness or tingling sensation inside the head. And that was certainly happening to me, but just treat it like any other object of attention that you would be meditating on. Once you realize that you've kind of lost that object of attention, just go ahead and, bring it back. When this happens to me, I simply readjust my eyeballs and bring that feeling of tightness back. Trying to maintain that tightness will gradually become easier and more relaxing as time passes on. That's another thing I noticed too. At first, when I was searching for that feeling, it was took a lot of mental attention, so I felt like it was going to keep me awake. But as I was playing around with it, I did indeed start slipping into stage 1 of sleep and had the actual hypnagogic images come up. Now all that's needed is to drift into sleep. Doing this, if I can fall asleep trying to mentally hold this feeling of tightness inside my head, my chances are good of ending up in some non-physical world. And yeah, I thought it worked really great. I specifically liked it because it gave me something to focus on as I was waiting for these hypnagogic images to pop up. And like over the years, I've covered a ton of different hypnagogic meditation techniques, and you can kind of place them into 2 different camps. One is you just simply hold your awareness on whatever you can see behind your closed eyes, so kind of more visually oriented. and you wait for these hypnagogic images to pop up. Or you can put your attention someplace else, like I would typically like to put it on the physical felt sensations of relaxation going on in my body. But then as I'm doing that, I'm watching what's happening behind my closed eyes, waiting for that hypnagogic imagery to pop up. And that actually is the way that I typically like to do it. And I found that this technique here worked kind of similarly, right? It had my attention placed somewhere, and actually placed somewhere perfect, because, while you have your attention placed somewhere inside your head, it's just a little bit easier to notice when those hypnagogic images do indeed start to pop up. So I really liked it a lot. I've been using it essentially every night, the past several nights that I have been going to sleep, and I've been having success with it. Now, I didn't have an OBE. I haven't had any lucid dreams for the past week and a half or so, but it definitely got me to the hypnagogic stage 1 of sleep, liminal dreaming state, lucidly or consciously aware, where I could play around in that liminal dream a bit before, completely losing my consciousness and falling asleep non-lucid like we typically do. As far as how to bring up the feeling of tightness or tingling sensation with inside the head, it's a kind of hard thing to explain. I think his example of it here, where he tries to mentally pull downward on that spot, that works decently well. Like for me, I was able to bring up a feeling of tightness or tingling in that general area, pretty much immediately, right? It was it's something that just came very naturally to me. So I can't really give too many good recommendations on how to find that feeling, if you weren't able to find it. But I would say just kind of play around with it, see if you are able to generate or find that feeling. If you're having some trouble with it, go ahead, let me know in the comments. I'll play around more in that area and try to specifically be paying attention to what it is I'm mentally doing to generate that feeling of tingling or tightness in that general area. But it was really cool. He did also drop another kind of big comment, I think, just going more into the book and kind of the stuff that he covers relating to this whole, point in his head where he ended up feeling like there was a hole there at some point. Should I cover it? Yeah, whatever. We'll go ahead and cover it. So I got it right here anyway to read. So within days, and I do believe this is again coming directly from the book, within days came another remarkable experience. After projecting out of body in the night, I found myself fully conscious, flying in darkness, able to feel a soft pressure on the bottoms of my feet. I was about to turn my head and look back when a wind came up, blowing against my direction of flight. The velocity of the wind quickly increased and to impressive strength, maybe 75 miles per hour or more. Maintaining my flight balance became so difficult that I kept my head and shoulders aimed directly into the wind, not looking back to see who or what was behind me. Flying in a dark tunnel is what it felt like. As the wind pummeled the crown of my head, I got the idea to try and mentally induce a feeling of tightness behind the top center of my head. Mentally pulling downward on that spot, like contemplating, suddenly a small hole, maybe an inch or two in diameter, opened up there. In rushed the wind, pouring through the hole and through my inner body as well as past me. Never have I felt anything so fantastic, like being electrified with energy yet without pain. Within weeks after the hole opened, another phenomenon became evident. During some of my OBEs, I became aware of and could feel energy funneling downward into my inner body in my inner body head through the hole. Several inches wide, this column of energy penetrated through my hand like tiny pins when I reached up and passed my inner body hand through it, causing a mild stinging to my hand. Again, I assumed this energy to be spirit, yet another discovery accompanied this column of energy phenomenon. I soon learned that automatic returns to my physical body could be prevented or delayed. This was new and promising. When out of body, if I kept my attention on the tingling sensation where the energy entered in my inner body head, I would not return to my physical body, even if my thoughts included my physical self. And that is something to kind of be aware of, within a lucid dreaming practice. Sometimes we'll be lucid dreaming. And if you start to think of your body, that's a pretty good way to go ahead and wake yourself up. So something to be, aware of. The more tingling or energy I could feel or mentally pull into my inner body head through the hole, the less susceptible I was to being drawn back inside my physical form automatically. I also began to experience abnormal visions after the hole opened on my inner body head. This part is interesting. By this, I mean that during the daytime, I would walk around in my physical body with normal vision, yet also be able to see myself going about my daily activities from a vantage point outside myself. Sounds trippy, man. For as long as the hole on the top of my head's inner body remained open, this outside point of vision stayed with me, but when that hole closed, my outer vision of my daytime physical self faded away. About 9 months after the hole of my inner body head opened is when it closed. First, the hole began to shrink in size. This I noticed over a period of several months. Occasionally during an OBE, I'd reach up and stick my finger into the hole to see if it was still there. The diameter of the hole gradually decreased to about half an inch, and the energy funneling into my head there diminished proportionately. Then the hole closed over, at first with a thin membrane-like covering that felt flexible and sensitive to the touch. Several times I considered pushing my inner body finger through the thin covering to try and reopen the hole, but did not because of uncertainty about causing harm. Should have done that shit. Okay, so months went by and the covering over the hole slowly turned solid like the rest of my inner body. The column of energy funneling into my inner body head became undetectable. No longer could I prevent automatic returns to my physical self. My nighttime OBE activity declined. Projecting out of body became more difficult for me, it appeared, and felt as if I had taken a spiritual or soul travel step backwards. The hole on the top of my inner body head gave evidence of being a shortcut to the inner worlds, perhaps something greater. And so I thought that was a pretty cool part that he added in there. It does make me kind of want to read more of the book and find out if he ended up getting past that. But something cool I thought I would throw in there as well. So a fun little hypnagogic meditation technique to try out. For me specifically, I just did it an inch or two back from where your third eye typically would be. Try to make a feeling of tightness or tingling sensation over there, and relax and start drifting into stage 1 of sleep, and that is it. So with that said, we'll wrap it up there, and until the next video, keep your meditation practices legit. One more thing I think I'll go ahead and add into this video, because this hypnagogic meditation technique that came in over the past week or so really does line up pretty perfectly with the comment that I was just going over, especially because my preferred approach to it by, trying to generate this feeling of tightness or tingling behind where my third eye typically would be. And so this comment came in from Max Dudat2 on YouTube, and he simply wrote, instead of moving your physical eyes, try imagining opening the eyelid of your third eye and keep it open. So very simple and straightforward technique. I do like trying to focus on my third eye more than my physical eyes when I am doing this whole hypnagogic meditation stuff. What can happen sometimes if you're looking too much with your physical eyes, you start to make your physical eyes feel strained or start to hurt and feel uncomfortable. And so to avoid that, you can just simply think of, if you are prioritizing trying to keep your attention intact by paying attention to the visuals, instead of looking with your physical eyes, try to think of looking with your third eye, and that's a way to kind of keep your attention there but not really stress out your real physical eyes too much. One more tip I guess I can throw in there too, though, if your physical eyes are starting to feel stressed out, something that I found works pretty good is you can rub your hands together to make them warm, and then just simply cup your eyes like that when they do start to feel stressed, and that's a pretty good way to get them to kind of calm down, relax some, and feel a little bit better. But yeah, his technique I think is also a pretty good one, so you can play around with that as well.